Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to our final presentation of the day. We start with the cons. Okay. Once again, please give your full attention and a warm welcome to the personal data collection group.
Hi, I'm Adora. This is Taylor and Red, and we're going to be presenting about the cons of personal data. The government collects personal data to monitor what goes on in the web. They do this by having access to many major corporations in the country. Some of the kinds of information they can collect is emails and phone records, which they analyze for suspicious behavior. However, increasing concern among the public has arisen about privacy. In 2013, a man named Edward Snowden, who worked for the government, leaked government files that revealed just how much information the government collected about Americans.
Garrett Kimberly.
I'm Robert Black.
And I'm Heather Butler, and today I want to share a story with you about Alexa Faith. She's been taking dance classes since she was in kindergarten. She uses school, she's creative, she loves to bake. She has a sarcastic sense of humor. In other words, a lot of us here can relate to her in some way. She's just an ordinary American. So there's one thing that separates her from the majority of us here. She's a terror victim. On September 11th, 2001, her father was in Tower 2 when it came crashing down. 4 months later, she was born and has had to live a life for the past 14 years as a terror victim. So for the next 10 minutes, let's put ourselves in Alexa Faith's shoes and think about what we would want the American people to do for us so that nobody else would have to live a life as a terror victim. Today we'll be talking about the government's ongoing efforts to protect innocent Americans from terrorists, criminals, and the safeguards they have in place to protect our privacy.
This is an American data center. These facilities cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build, and there are 2,000 of these around the U.S. just like this. And in addition to just the upfront cost of building these data centers, it costs $25 million per megawatt of power to run these facilities. And also, most of the data in these facilities serves no real purpose for any kind of incriminating evidence at all. And the money that is used to build these large data centers can be better used for other crime prevention methods.
On September 11th, 2001, nearly 3,000 Americans lost their lives in a terrorist attack conducted on American soil. As a direct response, on October 26, 2001, the USA Patriot Act of 2001 was enacted by Congress into law. This allowed the government to collect data. It has been proven to be successful 69 times. That means thousands of lives have been saved because of the collection of data. For instance, a Saudi man bought 2 chemicals from a North Carolina company. And once alerted, the government was able to look at his emails as well as his purchasing records that led to his arrest for wanting to wage jihad on the United States by using a chemical weapon. There are 68 other instances similar to this one that have saved lives. But sadly, as each year goes by from the tragedy of 9/11, companies begin to think more about their consumers' privacy than how the collection of data has saved lives. In a speech made by James Comey, FBI director, just a week and a half ago at Kenyon College, he explains that in 2014, Apple and Google began creating encrypted technology. Encryption is a terrorist's best friend. It allows them to communicate, plot, and carry out an attack because of this technology. Prior to 2014, the FBI said they can find a needle in the haystack. They've done it 69 times. It is possible. But when a terrorist goes to the encrypted technology, the FBI's only fear is that the next time they find that needle is at your local train station wearing a suicide vest. So the battle is mainly about encryption and people wanting personal privacy versus the collection of data and terrorists being prevented, terrorism being prevented. However, to say that Americans are guaranteed absolute privacy and the collection of data is unconstitutional is an illegitimate argument, because in the same speech made by James Comey, he explains that 200 plus years ago, when our forefathers sat down to write the Constitution, nowhere in there did they explain absolute privacy or guarantee that. They made a bargain with us, and they said, you sacrifice a little bit of your privacy, and we are allowed to look, search, and seize your personal property as long as we have reasonable cause. So that's the bargain, and that's the deal that we've made with the government. The government has continued to collect data and has continued to protect lives. So overall, it's going to take one major tragedy similar to 9/11 to show the American people that encryption is not the answer and it will kill other Americans, and that the collection of data has saved lives.
After 9/11, the government collected more data, which filled up their systems, which made it harder for analysis of certain attacks. A suicide bomber who was on a plane in 2009 in the intelligence community failed to intercept him, and another shooting by Nabil Hassan, a U.S. military officer, they could not stop because of the fog in their system, which made analysis slower. A CIA agent made a statement that the system is so clogged that they couldn't get information because they're scared not to.
Many domestic crimes have been helped prevented by this Patriot Act. Over 4,000 different special warrants have been given out to help stop not only crimes such as violent crimes against people, but also tobacco crimes, cocaine, and other drugs that harm American citizens. And not only that, but they cause money to leave the country and go to other countries that are importing those drugs. And it really collapses our economy. Domestic crimes have also been stopped, such as molestations. There was a young girl who was being molested by her father, and the only reason we knew about it was because we were able to intercept these emails. We were able to take that information, find who it was being sent from, and they were able to arrest this man for this molestation. Now, as you can see above, there's a good cop and a bad cop, and this sort of represents the police force. There are very good cops, there are police force that are very good, and they help American citizens, and there are some that are corrupt. But that doesn't mean we get rid of the police force altogether. This police force has helped stop thousands and millions of crimes. Now, this Patriot Act is just an extension of this justice system. It not only helps capture these terrorists, but it also helps stop all these domestic crimes. It is a necessary tool. As Senator Ashcroft said, it connects the dots between different parts of different agencies and allows them to connect and work together to help stop crimes.
The large databases that the government keeps on Americans has left their data prone to hacking. In 2014, 22 million Americans' data was compromised to hacking. It was not only government officials and who they contacted with data that was stolen, it was also everyday Americans like you and me. The kinds of data that were stolen include credit card numbers, social security numbers, medical records, and other very important data that should be kept private. This could potentially cause identity theft, unauthorized purchases, and other harmful effects that could damage Americans' everyday lives.
Safeguards are laws set in place by the judicial system to protect people from leakages of their social security numbers, credit card numbers, and health and private information. An example of this is when in 2013, Edward Snowden leaked classified information from the NSA, who was also a former employee of the CIA. The safeguards that were set in place made sure that since then, there has not been a leakage of that information. Currently, Edward Snowden is living in Russia, and the U.S. has many different warrants and deals with political leaders just to make sure this man gets back to America to face his charges. The safeguards ensure that if leakages may occur, then they are put to justice through the judicial system. There are 3 different charges he's faced with for 10 years in prison for each one. There's up to 30 years in prison and some additional charges for going away to Russia and things like that. So, and each charge is under the Espionage Act of 1917. And there are over 100 countries that have safeguards set in place to protect people from situations such as these. Overall, the safeguards have protected people from people like Edward Snowden ever doing things like these again.
In conclusion, with the cost of building government data centers, the absurd enormity of all the data that has been collected, and the potential for all of this data to be seized by malicious hackers, means that that the government should not collect our personal data.
So in conclusion for us, the government has helped stop thousands of terrorist attacks, and imagine the funerals that have been put off, 3,000 funerals for the people who died at 9/11. And imagine how many people were weeping across the country. 69 times that has been stopped. And not only that, but thousands of domestic crimes have been stopped, which have also could have caused bad side effects and other problems. And your data is perfectly safe with all the new safeguards that are continuously being added. The Patriot Act is a new technology that is required if you want to fight the new technologies being used by terrorists.
Usual questioner, Mr. Cotton?
All right. So this side over here. In your conclusion statement, you said thousands of terrorist attacks have been stopped by this personal data collection, and then like 2 sentences later you said 69. That's a very large
Thousands of
difference.
lives have been saved because of these powers of the collection of data. That means, yes, there have been 69 terrorist attacks that have been stopped, but thousands of lives have been saved.
Also, I mean, like these organizations, like the NSA, you said something about the police force. Like the NSA, they did tests on multiple NSA agents at multiple different locations with like fake bombs that have the same properties that would go off in the same way to see if they would pick up these bombs or guns or threats or whatever they had. And the majority of the time, they failed.
Well,
I mean, like,
those people also knew what the NSA was doing. They knew how the NSA was going to go through and figure out if there's a bomb there. And so it was sort of unfair because they sort of knew how the other people were doing it, and the NSA could never have known what they were doing. But
that's how they got away with it. Like you said, it was around before 9/11.
the Patriot Act was actually,
Are we talking NSA or TSA, the two different organizations? TSA is transportation, that's who stops the bombs going on airplanes. NSA is the security agency. The electronic.
It has increased since 9/11. So prior to 9/11, there were around 24 terrorist attacks prior to 9/11 that were conducted on Americans. And then after 9/11, things like the USA Patriot Act have helped to stop so many.
Yeah, two quick one question over here. All right, so this question for the pros, I know you were talking about Edward Snowden, but what charges is he facing, and like, why are they so bad? He leaked people's information when he said that they were spying on us, or collecting people's data, I should say.
He would like classify NSA information, like, and he was being charged for espionage.
Makes it contradictory. But what we're trying to say is that the judicial system is in place so that nobody is going to do this, and there hasn't been something affecting on that.
So, with that question, what if somebody is committing a crime, but if they're acting alone, or they might not necessarily be using the technology, the data technology collection can only prevent certain crimes, but wouldn't there be other crimes that we would still have to use different resources to stop?
The data collection is not the only tool, it's just one of many that have not solved.